In this video, I'm going to look at caps and timings, and really I'm just looking at them for our syllabus, which is the Edexcel syllabus. It may be different if you're doing AQA. Caps, earned caps, great. You can have cool caps, like these two cool dudes on the left, or you can have, maybe be generous and say iconic caps, like the one on the right. But obviously the caps I'm going to talk about is the caps on achievement or marks that the exam board have put in when you're completing your exams and writing your essays. And the people who wrote the Edexcel one seem to have gone a little bit crazy when they were doing the new syllabus, because they've put in loads of these caps on achievement. So I'm just going to go through what these ones are. Okay, so cap 1 is on papers 1 and 2 in the source question. If you have no balance or consideration of both views, you're going to be capped at level 2, less than half marks of the 30, 12 out of 30. This idea of balance is also in cap 2 as well. But in the source question, no balance or consideration of both views, you're capped at level 2. Same goes for the straightforward 30-mark essay question. If you only consider one side of the argument, you're capped at less than half marks. In papers 1 and 2, you also have to do an ideologies essay. And again, if you don't consider both sides of the argument, you're capped at level 2. And in the ideologies essay, each ideology has 5 named key thinkers, and you have to refer or bring in at least 2 key thinkers in your essay. No matter how brilliant your essay is, if you don't bring in your 2 key thinkers, you're going to get capped at level 2 as well. And obviously that's a cap, so it could be less than that depending on how good your essay is. So less than half marks for all those ones. Another cap, cap 5, is in paper 2, UK politics. On the 30-mark essay, you have to make some reference in that essay to some of the content you studied on paper 1. So if you're doing something on the Constitution, paper 2, you may make reference to constitutions to limit government power are one of the features of a liberal democracy. If you're talking about parliament and representation, you could refer back to the electoral system on paper 1, first past the post. Leads to weak representation in parliament because political opinion is not adequately represented. It's a smallish cap, but it still means that if you don't make that synoptic link, they're going to cap you at level 4, which is 24, a maximum of 24 out of 30. And that one is not really in any great detail. It could be something like a phrase, as we have seen in component 1 or paper. Then we're on to paper 3, which is the comparative politics, US and UK. And paper 3 is a slightly different structure. It's got 2 12-mark comparative questions. You'll be asked directly to compare aspects of the UK system and the US system. So say, for example, in question 1, you could be asked to examine the differences between the House of Commons and the House of Representatives, examine the similarities between the US constitutions and the UK constitution. Unsurprisingly, as it's a comparative question, if you only reference one country, they're going to cap you a severe cap at level 1, maximum at 3 out of 12. It makes a nonsense of a comparative question if you only reference one country. The same goes for the question 2 12-marker, which has a command phrase of analyze. In the analyze question, it's similar to question 1. It'll ask you to analyze or examine aspects between the 2 systems, but then with the comparative theory, you've got to then give a reason as to why the systems are different or why they're similar. And there's 3 comparative theories: structural, cultural, and rational, which we'll do near the time. But if you make no or limited reference to the comparative theory, you're going to get capped at level 3, a maximum of 9. And then for the choice of 2 essays from 3, which are just pure American politics. There's no comparative element necessary. It's back to Cap 2, which is, if you don't have a balanced essay, it's level 2, which is 12 out of 30. So I reckon about 7 caps in all that you have to have in mind. Some of them should come to you very naturally, like the balanced essay in both views. You'd be amazed if anybody's writing an essay after 2 years and isn't having a contested view, arguments for and against. The newer ones will be this reference to key thinkers, which is, severe cap, 12 out of 24 if you don't reference 2 of them. This one, the synoptic link back to paper 1, which, it's 6 marks that's going begging, or possibly you could lose. And these newer questions here, question 1 and question 2, the examine and analyze one, and the use of comparative theories. But we'll do these as we're doing the questions. So what might that look like on a mark scheme, these caps? Well, here's your mark scheme for the 30 mark essays. So cap 1 and 2. If you've no balance, you're going to get capped here at level 2. And again, our 3 assessment objectives: knowledge, analysis, and judgment, and they're each worth 3. So cap 1 and 2 is 24, and cap 5 is on paper 2 if you don't make reference to the elements in paper 1, you're going to get capped at level 4. Next one would be the ideologies essay. If you don't make reference to the key thinkers, you're going to get capped at level 2. And then the comparative paper, if you only make reference to one country, you're going to get a very severe cap of level 1. And if you don't bring in the comparative theory, you're going to get capped at level 3. So here are our caps, and I'll copy that or as an attachment onto your work on Google's history. Finally, question of timings, just worth having a quick look at it. So on the 3 papers, it's 30 marks essay, 30 mark essay, and then paper 1 and 2, you got a 24 mark essay, and paper 3, that 24 marks is split into your 2 12 mark questions. So there's 84 marks per paper, and you have 2 hours to do the papers. So what kind of timing should we be spending on these essays? Well, if you want to get your calculator, 30 marks is 36% of the 84 marks, and 36% of your 2 hours is 43 minutes. So if you want to be very precise, you should be spending about 43 minutes on your 30 mark essays. The 24 mark essay on paper 1, 24 marks is 28% of 84 marks, and 28% of 124 minutes is 34 minutes. So you should be spending about 34 minutes on the ideologies question. And if you want to take that into paper 3, that would be 17 minutes on each 12 mark question. For the source question, of course, you've got to allow some reading time in that 43 minutes, and planning time and picking up the arguments for and against. So you'd imagine the length of the source question would be slightly shorter, the answer, than the straight 30 mark question, because you have to allow, I would say, at least 5 minutes reading time and prep. And of course the 24 mark essay just will be shorter because you have 8% less time to do it. In effect, I would think about 9 minutes or so. And just an interesting one in terms of the overall content. Out of the 252 marks across the 3 papers, if you add up all the possible marks for UK government and politics, which would be paper 1 and paper 2, if you take out the ideologies, it's worth 53% of the overall A level. So over half is for UK government and politics. US government and politics is worth 72 marks because it's only in paper 3. And that's only about 28% of the overall mark. That's a real bugbear, I think, and a flaw in the structure of the syllabus, in that there is nearly as much content in US government and politics as there is in the US in terms of possible time, but far less marks, just less than about half the percentage. And then there are only 2 ideologies questions. There were 48 marks, and that's 19%, or about a fifth of the marks. So when we're planning teaching time and we're planning revision time, you just got to be aware of the overall contribution they make. So no matter how much you might love US government and politics, or you might love ideologies, over half your marks are going to come from the UK element. Okay.